we can let's do an icebreaker. If you guys would like, you can say this out loud or put it into the chat if you want to. Maybe like, what's your favorite color and your favorite TV show, if you have one. I guess I can go first. My favorite color is purple, and my favorite TV show, I don't really know. I don't watch TV shows that much, so. But if you guys have any good TV shows suggested, that would be really cool. Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, green is a pretty good color too. I think all the colors are very beautiful. So. I think you're referring to sky blue, kind of like the light kind of blue. Um, that's a really pretty color as well. We can wait for a couple more minutes, and then probably at like 8:04, I'll start sharing. Hi everyone, we're just doing a little icebreaker, so you can like say this out loud, or you can put it in the chat. But what's your favorite color and your favorite TV show, if you have a favorite TV show? We're doing an icebreaker, like a small icebreaker, so you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute, and we're just saying our favorite color and our favorite TV show if we have one. And I will start presenting in just a minute. We're saying our favorite color or colors and a favorite TV show if you have one. Ooh, purple, fellow purple enthusiast. Yeah, I don't know. I think TV shows are a little bit less popular these days. Let me know what you guys think. It's more movies, in my opinion. Okay, it looks like the majority of the students are here now. So I'm just going to present my screen. Oh, okay, The Summer I Turned Pretty. That's a good TV series as well. Okay. I think you guys can see that. Let me know if it like lags or anything during presentation. But this is week 3 of our SAGE Forensics and Crime class, and we are going to cover soil and footprints today, as well as do a little booklet review again. So let's do it. All right. So I'm just going to start with the types of soil. And some of you may be wondering, like, oh, what does this have to do with solving a crime? Well, a lot of soil tracks can be used to identify where somebody's coming from, especially in footprints. So it's important to know the different types of soil. And this is also just really good general knowledge to have as well. As I said, there are a lot of branches of science being used in forensics. So a little bit of everything is good to have when you're solving a case. And we're going to briefly go over the 3 textures of soil. These are like the 3 major types of soil that you'll see. And they are sand, silt, and clay. And they're classified based on their grain sizes. So how big the singular grain of them is. And grain sizes also affect their ability to hold water. So if you think about it, for example, sand has a very like coarse kind of texture, and it doesn't really hold water well. And also, like if you think of like a desert, like the sand isn't holding the water very well, neither, and it also doesn't rain as much there. So the plants have to like kind of absorb water. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of a pre-check here. I think most of us have heard of at least one of the words on this list, and that would be probably sand. And some of you might have heard of the clay soil type. So based on what I've just kind of gone over for now, from most fine-grained, so smaller particle sizes, to most coarse-grained, which order do you think these soil types should go in? So which one's like
we're learning about stuff like coarse grain stuff in science class. We're learning about rocks.
Oh, rocks. I like rocks. But what do you guys think is the most fine-grained soil out of these 3?
Sand.
Sand. Okay. That's actually a lot of people think sand is really fine-grained, but when you compare it to silt and clay, you find that it's actually extremely coarse-grained. Like it's kind of much bigger than silt or clay. And that is because when these 3 soil types are made, they're basically just tiny, minuscule pieces of rock, with the exception of clay, which can be a couple of other things. But what happens is you have basically just have a really big rock, and a lot of times it'll be underwater or near flowing water, and the water will like smash against it. And you might think water smashing against a rock doesn't really do anything. But after like millions and millions of years, well, something will happen. And that is called erosion. Erosion, where the rock is basically smashed into tiny little pieces by the water. And it'll become what we call sediments, which are kind of like smaller than pebbles, like kind of little fragments of rocks. And then it'll become sand, silt, and clay. So sand is actually the coarsest out of each of these materials. So sand is the coarsest, or is the most coarse. Out of silt and clay, which one do you guys think is the finer one now? And if you guys don't want to unmute, you can always put it in the chat and I will respond because I can see.
Looking at the order, I'm just going to guess clay.
Yeah, so you'd be right. I did put them in coarsest to finest order. That was kind of a problem, my fault, but yes, clay would be the finest one. And where do you know anywhere you guys have seen the usage of clay before?
Gardening.
Gardening, yeah. Is there another? I'm thinking of one specifically. Like, it's actually pretty common. it's an art form, or I would consider an art form. Where they're using clay to create art. No one? I feel like this is
Pottery?
Yeah, it would be pottery. Good job, Anna. So clay is actually used in pottery, and that's because it holds that water really well. So because it has such fine little grains, it's actually holding that water. And when you think of like a big piece of clay with water in it, it's basically like it's like muddy, basically, right? Because it's holding that water so well. And you did have a really good question, Simone. And what's silt? So silt would be between kind of sand and clay. I know a lot of us don't see it very often. I mean, we don't like hear it being used as often, I guess, because really the definitions on these aren't too strict. There are like diameter requirements, but I don't think we really have to get into that. But silt is just kind of in between. It's a medium grain particle, and we will get into those next time. But if you remember, just from like how it would interact with water, right? So sand, you might be surprised, but it doesn't hold water as well as clay. When you put water in clay, it just holds it in there. Like there's no water coming out of it. Whereas like if you're on the beach and there's a bunch of sand on the beach, you can say, oh, there's like wet sand, right? But eventually it'll like kind of drip out, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. There are a couple more. Okay, so sand, silt, and clay. We're going to start with sand, going a little bit more in depth. So they're again made from eroded rocks, so usually on beaches or in arid deserts. So how do you guys think the sand got there onto like the beaches and the deserts? An example of silt. I guess silt would be like the kind of fine, medium fine grain stuff that you might find on like a stream bank. I can search up a picture if you guys would like one. I know it's just kind of in the middle, and it's usually on river banks. So how do you guys think the sand is getting onto those beaches or deserts? I think one of them is kind of obvious, while the other might not be. I'll give you guys like a little starting point. Remember that it's made from eroded rocks. So rocks are being smashed. So why do you think they're on beaches in arid deserts? Yeah, that is quite a bit of.
Well, it kind of gives you the answer right there. It says eroded rocks. So it was eroded.
I think I'd like you guys to get into more detail than that. How exactly is the rock being smashed and how is it being transported? Kind of like putting the clues together. Waves, yes, Rebecca. So, waves and water. So, when we think about beaches, obviously that's a lot of water, right? So, probably a long time ago, there used to be a lot of rocks, and in some way or another, probably through water, they were eroded, and they probably either eroded by ocean water very, very slowly and became sand, which washed up into the ocean, onto the beaches, or they were in like a stream and the river kind of pushed all of that eroded rock down into the ocean where they would end up onto a beach. So what about deserts? Deserts. This one's quite, it's a very interesting way, I think. Because deserts don't have water, right? That's one thing. Deserts don't typically have water, so
Well, they could also have been carried by winds.
yeah. So wind is definitely like one of the biggest factors in deserts. First of all, it was also probably just like a lot of wind blasting at rocks, which I think is probably slower than water at eroding rocks. So after millions and millions of years, they all turn to sand. And also just the lack of water as well, making that dry out. Okay, silt, I already kind of gave this away. So silt is also made from eroded rocks, but it has finer grains. And for this one, they are found on river, stream banks, and other like waterways. I think this one, yeah, a lot of people definitely haven't heard of silt. Oh, ooh. This is basically what it looks like. If you see, that's a ton of silt there. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. And clay has the finest soil size and are often near really large bodies of water, lakes, depending on how it was formed. So how do you guys think clay was formed? How do you think clay is formed? It's definitely got something to do with how the other two were formed, but there is one difference. Yeah, and weathering and erosion. Basically in clay, usually they're formed like under like big bodies of water and there's a bunch of water rushing through and it basically just like really smashes all the like organic things as well as a bunch of rocks. So for example, I'm pretty sure you can find some clay out there that has like smashed seashells in it, probably. Doesn't on that. Okay. Now some of you might be thinking, these are three soil types, but what about the soil that I find in my backyard? You know, it's not really clay, it's not really silt, it's not really sand, it's kind of like dirty.
That's why
it's
we call
very
it
dark.
dirt.
Yeah. So it's very like it's definitely darker than sandstone or clay usually. And it feels very like damp. If you've ever touched like gardening soil before, it does feel quite damp. So regular soil is actually just a mixture of sandstone and clay. And here we have a really helpful but kind of very detailed I call this the soil triangle. And it basically shows us like, oh, if I have this percent clay, this percent silt, this percent sand, I'll have this kind of soil, right? So there's loam, which is in the middle. Typically, whatever in your backyard is some kind of a loam. And the one added ingredient with loam, which is clay, silt, and sand, is organic material, you know, worms, worm poop. Yeah. If you didn't know there was worm poop in your soil, there is. So worms are good like composters, decomposers, and they basically just break down dead organisms to return their nutrients to the soil. Ew, yeah. I mean, I thought it was kind of weird when I first heard about it that you have worm poop probably in your soil. There's probably quite a bit of it too if you're in like a very fertile environment. But unfortunately, that's just how the world works. And it's okay because they make life better for all of us. If there were no decomposers in our world, there would be no nutrients in the soil at all. So, okay, let's not
Well,
spam this.
we actually talked about worm poop in marine science yesterday. We talked about how the worms decompose the stuff and then poop it out as some sand and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
just poop it out
yeah.
as some stuff.
Yeah, they kind of eat like dead things. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I guess our classes kind of intersect. Yeah, so after that little soil spiel, we're going to move on to footprints. Yay. Okay. So there are a few different types of footprints, and I think it's very helpful to learn about footprints because a lot of people kind of underestimate them when in reality, a lot of CSI scientists say, which is crime scene investigation. A lot of crime scene investigation experts say that like, oh, footprints are really useful. They're literally like a fingerprint because they can tell like where your toes are in your shoe using like the indent marks on your like, the sole, I think. Yeah, footprints. Okay. So we have three main types of prints. And there's 2D prints and 3D prints. So I've separated them. Right. Oh. So these are 2D prints. These are 3D prints. 2D, 3D. Okay. And in 2D prints, you have two types. One is latent prints, and the other is patent prints or patent prints. And they're quite similar. But one is invisible to the human eye, and one is visible to the human eye. So a latent print, or a latent, you want to call it that, is a print invisible to the human eye, which needs special tools to uncover. So if you think about it like, let's say you have like a brand new pair of shoes and you're just going on like a walk on the pavement. You can't really tell where you step foot exactly. But a CSI investigator might use some very special tools to figure out exactly what your footprint looks like. So there are a couple cool things that we can see to uncover latent prints. And patent prints is a print caused by a substance on the foot or shoe, like blood or water. So if you think about it like coming out of the pool, if you ever come out of the pool and onto like pavement or asphalt, which is kind of like asphalt is really bad to go on after you've been in a pool. The
Like
water on your feet.
Like if you stepped in a pond and then walked.
Yeah, like if you stepped in a pond and like walked on like concrete or something, you'd be able to see like where your footprints are. So that would be a patent print. And you can always use those. And our 3D print, which I think a lot of people, this is what people usually think of, I think, for me at least, when you think of like a footprint, is like 3D prints made from an impression into like a softer surface, such as mud or sand. So if you ever like been walking in the rain and you step in some mud, you're obviously going to leave a shoe print there. And investigators could potentially use that. They could pour plaster into the shoe print and make a cast out of it for preservation. Okay.
In art class, we made some medals out of footprints before.
Oh, okay. That's
We
cool.
just basically stepped on this thing and then painted over it.
All right. Okay, so Some people again, I said a lot of people underestimate the power of footprints in forensics when they're indeed very useful. Um, I'm gonna reference Sherlock Holmes again. If you can't tell, I really like Sherlock Holmes. But Sherlock Holmes basically uses like almost all footprints as his evidence in one of his cases. And it's kind of genius. Like he can tell exactly like, oh, this person stepped in this. This person is walking like this. This person has like a limp, right? And he's able to identify all these different suspects in people. So here are a couple of techniques that you can see. So walking prints are a lot more uniform than running prints. So like obviously if you're walking, you're going to be going much slower, you're much more stable. Whereas if you're running, especially if you're running from like a crime scene, it's going to be very like jagged, uneven, things like that, and probably less in a straight line. And deep impressions are made either at the heel or toe when you're running. This is especially important in plastic prints because if you ever run through mud, for me, um, I've like looked over some of my prints and I'm like, oh, my like the area where my toe is, it goes deeper because I'm digging into the mud and trying to push off quicker, especially when I'm sprinting. Some people have a deeper impression in the heel because they're trying to land softer. And stride length can actually show speed. There's a really cool formula out there where they can basically measure like how far away your footprints are from each other and they can tell exactly how fast you're going, I think, but it's quite complicated. So yeah, those are just a couple of things that you can tell from prints. And obviously a lot of prints.
Well, what if the person just crab walks out of there?
Crab walks, like walk sideways.
Yeah.
If they walk sideways, they could probably still use that as a clue because they would still leave footprints. Although they probably wouldn't be able to have as many pieces of evidence based on that. Okay, so we're going to watch a neat little video because this person has a lot of technology that I definitely don't have access to. Uh-oh. Let me see if I can share audio. Let's share sound. And tell me if you can hear this, like the music. Can you hear that? Could you hear that music?
I can hear it.
Okay.
This building has been constructed in the shape of a question mark, and that's a clue to what goes on here. Harperley Hall in Durham is a state-of-the-art teaching centre. Here, students learn the skills required to become a crime scene investigator.
Footwear marks are the most common type of evidence found at crime scenes. Unique patterns of wear and scuffing make it possible to match even part of a print to an individual shoe, rather like a fingerprint.
Footwear marks are found at around half of all crime scenes. That's a lot of valuable information to be collected and preserved. Ian Wilson is the CSI School's footprint expert. Today's lesson involves a mock-up of a burglary.
Noticing there's some papers on the floor there, so that would be an area that I would consider searching for the possibility of latent prints on that newspaper. Potentially there could be a hidden mark on there in dust, so what I'll use is an Esler machine to actually lift the dust in the hope that I make that mark a lot more visible to us. Place the electrodes on the earthing plate.
The Esler stands for electrostatic lifting apparatus. The technique involves placing a foil sheet over the suspected print.
Somebody asked if this is a latent print. Yes, a latent or latent print. You can't see with your eye where exactly you stepped on that paper. So they're using this very cool technology that can show us the footprint. Oh, you don't have to take note, but I guess if you really want to, Okay. We're not having like a test or anything. It's just applying a lot of the skills. And I'll always post the presentations after.
And using electrical charges to attract dust particles.
If you knock the lights off,
By shining a white light at an angle, we can see a print.
Straight away, we've got a really clear imprint. Although some footwear marks are easier to see than the one on the newspaper, it doesn't mean they're easier to collect as evidence.
Ian takes me outside to the grounds of the CSI school, where a shoe print has been found, which could be connected to the burglary.
So a completely different type of print this. So how would you lift this one?
this being a three-dimensional print, it's got depth to it. Rather than lift it, we'll need to take a cast of it.
Part of the CSI's portable kit is a casting powder. Water is added, then it's poured onto the footprint.
Flow down into the mark.
It's then labelled and left to set.
I don't want to cause any damage to it at this stage. So to protect it, we'll just put it in this box.
We've got our footwear evidence from the crime scenes. Now it's off to the lab to see how it can help us.
Police have recovered a pair of training shoes from a suspect, but are they a match to our prints?
Surely thousands of people would have a trainer like that.
Indeed, there will be thousands of training shoes, pretty much the same as this. So what we'll be looking at is not only the pattern type, but we'll be looking at the size, areas of wear within the sole. Ultimately, we'll be looking for identifying features, which would be nicks and cuts within the sole area. You can see that there is actually quite a substantial nick.
Ian has made a copy of the suspect's.
I don't want to pause it too much, but this is what people mean when like they say a footprint is just as valuable as a fingerprint, because the way that you walk is very different and pretty much uncontrollable unless you're training yourself to walk a particular way, like a model or something. And based off of that, your shoes will undergo wear and tear, and like you can tell how a person is walking if you're a CSI specialist based on their shoe or their footprints.
Shoe. By placing it over photos of the prints found in the mud and on the newspaper, he can compare the images.
Straight away, you can see that this matches up very, very nicely.
A look at the cast confirms the shoe was at the scene of the crime. Another tool available to the CSI is footwear intelligence technology, a database which contains thousands of shoe patterns, images and brand logos.
So Ian, this is great, but what happens if a suspect says, yeah, so what if you got the shoes on me? They're not mine, I just borrowed them from a mate.
Okay, well what we do there is something called Cinderella analysis. Here we have an example of an insole from a shoe, and you can see here quite clearly where each toe lies within that shoe, and that's what makes us able to put the person back into the shoe. That can be as unique as a fingerprint.
The distinctive impressions on the insole didn't form overnight. These shoes have been worn regularly by the same person.
A criminal will often commit many crimes wearing the same pair of shoes. So footwear analysis can help solve several crimes at once.
As CSI technology gets more sophisticated, even the smallest mark left behind by a shoe can help lead police to the door of a criminal.
Okay, that is the video. Oh, could you guys hear like the entire audio of the video? It looks like some
Yeah.
seems kind of okay. I guess we're not doing any other videos this week, so it probably is just an issue on my end, not sharing the sound properly. But that's okay. 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 So we're going to do a lot of review of the past 2 weeks because I feel like practice is probably the best like way to
If
learn
you
this
say
kind of thing.
top secret look it, that really sounds like we're doing crypto hack.
If you guys would like to do crypto hack, I did not intend for that to happen, but keeping that in mind, do you guys want me to review anything in the past few classes? Oh. Do you guys want me to review anything in the past few classes?
No.
No. Does everybody kind of have like a good grasp of the material? Most of the stuff I put in the book is pretty like straightforward, I think. A lot of it is fingerprint identification practice. So is everybody clear? If you're ever unsure on anything, you can always send a chat or private message me if you would like.
All right, can we review which one is the world one and which one is the
Sure, yeah, we can
types of
review,
fingerprints?
yeah, the types of fingerprints. Okay, let me stop share for just a second. Let's quickly go over that again. Week 2. Okay. I'm gonna share screen again. All right. Let's see. Oh, here are 8 fingerprints. Okay. I think you asked about the whorls. So, looking at the first one. So this is a plain whorl. You see that these patterns, they look kind of like a bullseye. So there's like a circle here and a circle outside of it and a circle outside of it and a circle outside of it. So that would be our whorl, whereas our central pocket loop, it has this loop around it. See how this doesn't exactly connect in a circle? It's more of like a pear shape here. And that's a loop. And then we'd have our circles kind of inside of this, and it would be like this. If that makes sense. And then our double loop whorl is an S shape. So you would see two loops kind of converging together. Oh, central pocket, nice. And then the accidental whorl is where you have just a kind of strange combination of different patterns. We're probably not going to see this in the booklet too much, but it's like that kind of bullseye, but it's more of like a strange pattern with a lot of different loops. You can see there's kind of a loop here, probably another here. And I think the arches are pretty clear on that. With ulnar and radial, remember ulnar is going towards the thumb and radial is going towards the pinky. Yes, sometimes even I get this two mixed up. So, is that good for everyone? Or do you want me to go more in depth with the types of fingerprints? Most of the booklet is that, so. Okay. It looks like everybody's good. Again, if you want me to review something, and I'll review the stuff as we go. For the book, I was actually planning on doing like Battle Royale, but if you guys would like to do Crypto Hack, I mean, or another thing, which game mode do you guys like to do? Nobody has a preference? A lot of people usually have factory. Okay. Does factory sound good to everybody? The frenzy, crypto. I don't know. Let's see. Dinos. Okay. I think the thing with a lot of look at it's kind of like the same thing. You know what? I think since we're not in person and we can't actually ask for passwords, I think CryptoHack is a good idea. And I guess it kind of goes with the theme. Yeah, if we have extra time, maybe we can play another round and do a different one. But yeah, okay. Let's set it to like 10 minutes. Let's post. Okay, if you guys could join that, just go to play.bookit.com, play.bookit.com, and you guys can enter in. We should have like 9 people, I think. And try to put something like close to your real name. Like this is fine. But don't steal anybody else's name. Like don't play as them, please. And let's see. Should I make a prize for this one? Prize can be I guess whoever wins gets to pick my background. I hope that's not a bad prize. You guys can pick my Zoom background. Bragging rights, okay. Bragging rights, and if you'd like, you can pick my Zoom background. I've won that prize before on like a virtual thing, so I thought it was pretty fun. Yeah, you can send me any Zoom background you'd like on Classroom, and I will pick yours.
Well, I would like the bragging rights. Maybe
Yeah,
you
you
should
can
get
have both.
second and third place awards too.
Okay. I guess I can think about it. What prizes is that? Yeah, make sure the background is appropriate, please. I will not take it. And you will also lose your chance. You only have one chance to send me a background, so please make sure it's appropriate. And if you're not sure if it's appropriate, it's probably not. That's like a general rule. If you have to ask, I think there's about 4 more people not in the book yet. Let's see. So if you guys could join. I will wait for like 2 minutes, probably. Let's see. I think it's Sally, Edwin, Jaden, and yes, Sally, Edwin, and Jaden. Because if please join the Bookit, I'd like everybody to get a chance to play. So yeah. Hello, Sally and Jaden. I think we're missing 2 now. Edwin and is it? Hang on. 2, 4. Okay, just one more. Edwin, could you join the Bookit, please? Maybe it's not out. Look. This is the code if you're ever to print it. I think we're going to start in like 2 minutes or 1 minute. So 7:47. No. Or whatever time it is. It's 47. Whatever time zone. Edwin, could you please join the bucket at the link up here? Okay. As it is not 7. It's 47. Sorry, oh my God. Okay. As it is like 13 from the end of class, 13 minutes from the end of class. I think we probably have to start now. Here are the instructions. Yes. Please follow these on your screen. And my screen is the leaderboard. So yeah. If it is convenient, split screen, or you can just go onto your screen. You don't have to look at the leaderboard. Okay, you all have just under 3 minutes left. So yeah. Okay, just under a minute left. Actually, 45 seconds and counting. All right, so that is game. And our winner is Anna W. Okay. So Anna, I'll post something on Google Classroom, and if you would like to make me a virtual background, that would be great. Just make sure it's appropriate, and I don't know, maybe do something funny. Oh, speaking of which, if my computer will allow me to, fingerprints have been added to our case file evidence folder. So if you'd like to take a look at those, they're quite interesting. And I will be posting a lot more evidence this week as well. There are a couple interesting footprints to be found around the Lancaster mansion. So if you'd like to take a look at those, and if you want to send me some theories, that would be great. Remember, at the end, you will have to do a final analysis on this evidence. So you might as well just analyze it week by week, just so you don't have to read through a lot of pages at the end of the class. Yeah. Right. And I will see you guys next time. Great job today, guys. And next week we will be doing, I believe, why did I forget already? I believe it is something with